Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. It's cautious. Case on pavement for 50 years. I always thought a finger was going to go on somebody else.
Do you see much Bob?
Made it through.
I see him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh.
We have coffee occasionally.
I got signed. I did that one summer.
Yeah, Kelly's friends are
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of hesitating.
I think all this rain has washed everything off. I don't know, they look like they're starting to wilt, then it'll rain.
I sprayed some around the office. Accountability that rain was I don't know, they've had a few parties. It was fun.
Are we ready to get started?
He was my trainee when I left, so I taught him how to do that.
Yeah, we've got some more handouts coming. Kelly's going to bring some up. Are we ready to get started? And we'll have some more chairs if we need to get more chairs. Okay, my name is Kevin Kubo, and this is Ember, Batelaan. We are the Hastings development team, and this meeting is about our comp plan update. Okay, and the purpose of this is to get my reading glasses on. There's 3 purposes. One is to update the demographic data in the 2025 comprehensive plan that was adopted last year, and update the housing data to include the new construction that's happened in 2025 and partially in 2026, and update the future land use map to better reflect the community's needs for the future. So those are the 3 big purposes of what this meeting is going to do and what we're trying to accomplish in the update of the comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan calls for an annual update to look at the plan and to make sure that it remains up to date, so it's not just a plan that sits on the shelf. And so this is our first annual update where we looked at the plan to make some minor changes. So the first one is the demographic data. This comes from the American Community Survey. Each year they create an estimate, a 5-year estimate of population. So this chart shows the age breakdown in the city of Hastings as was estimated in 2024. That is the most recent data available. And so the majority of our population is currently in the 20 to 24 age range. Then the housing data is also from the American Community Survey, and that identifies that the majority of our owner households are 2-person households, while the majority of renter households are 1-person households. And the sheet that some of you may have, Kelly is printing off more of those. That is the comp plan update. That would be, the intent would be to bring that to Planning Commission and Council to be adopted as an appendix to the comprehensive plan. So each time we make updates to it, that would then be included in the comprehensive plan. None of the other information would be deleted out of the comp plan. It would just get additional information added to the end of it, and that's what you have in your hand. So then the last change that we're proposing is changes to the future land use map in certain areas. So the area west of the middle school is currently shown as medium density residential in our comprehensive plan. However, due to that being a wetland protection area, we're proposing to change that to the Parks and Recreation land use category, since it would be unlikely to be developed with residential in the next 20 years.
The future land use map and residential, from low density residential to medium density residential, that is we're taking the R1 district and the R2 district and we're changing that to reflect what the future land use map is saying in our actual code.
This is the area north of 12th Street and west of Baltimore. The comprehensive plan basically identifies the majority of the community from Highway 6 up to about 14th Street, and from Laird to Elm as medium density residential, and this is the only area that was not shown in that area. So to reflect the uses that are currently in that area and to match the rest of that neighborhood, we're proposing to change that from low density residential to medium density residential. Then in downtown as well, we had talked to the Community Redevelopment Authority, the Catholic schools, and other entities in that area. Currently, the comprehensive plan shows the downtown commercial extending all the way up to 7th Street. However, these entities and us did not feel that downtown commercial accurately reflected the development in that area. So what we're proposing is along 6th and 7th Streets, that those areas would be general commercial. They do not necessarily have that downtown commercial character. And then we're currently working with Hastings Catholic Schools to show their property as that public institutional. The public institutional land use category is intended for campuses. So currently we have Mary Lanning that is in that public institutional campus designation, and with the Hastings Catholic Schools, they own multiple properties in that area and would then get that same designation as well.
Where does that go? What's the boundary of that?
So the blue area, that is Hastings Catholic Schools, the properties they currently own, that would be their campus.
Okay.
We would then require a master plan from them that would show us where they're planning to grow in the future. That would tell us what they're planning to do on their properties. It gives them a little bit more flexibility than if they were in a commercial or a residential land use
So
category.
the same way with the hospital.
Yeah. And the colleges is another example of that public institutional land use category. Then we also had conversations with the county. At the time of the writing of this comprehensive plan, the consultants and us were not aware of these feedlots. This one is just north of Juniata, outside of our 2-mile jurisdiction. However, due to the proximity to that feedlot, we've changed where the pink area is shown, that would be transitional agriculture. The purple would be residential estates. Residential estates is basically your large lot residential. And then same with near Idlewild on the edge of our ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, is that 2-mile boundary that the city also has zoning jurisdiction in that area. We also changed it from low and medium density residential to that transitional agriculture as well, to give sort of that buffer from those feedlots. Then the next one is Good Samaritan Village. Currently, the comprehensive plan shows that as high-density residential. However, that area already has a mix of uses, including the high-density residential, the assisted living facilities, the dining services, library, and the community theater. So one of the changes we're proposing to that area is also to have them in that public institutional campus land use category to reflect that mix of uses, to also ask them for a campus master plan to allow for more flexible development in that area,
So
or redevelopment.
if Good Sam or pull-up stakes, does it have to be all changed back then, right?
Does it what?
If Good Samaritan pull-up stakes that leave town, that would put this not out of the institutional area then, right? Because
Well,
it'd
it's not
probably
big-
break up separate.
It's not based on ownership, it's based on use. So if
Okay,
they
but
pull
the
up
use-
stakes,
Use would go from institutional back to residential.
well, it depends on who bought
Yeah.
it. If they set, there's pieces of it that are owned by different parts of the corporation. So we're basing this on the use of the property. The residential's not gonna change. There's always gonna be a restaurant out there, or we hope there's a restaurant out there. Those additional services shouldn't go away. Somebody else is just gonna buy them and continue that use, so.
And if at that point in time it does change, like I mentioned before, the comprehensive plan states in it that it should be reviewed on an annual basis. That does not mean we have to make changes annually, but we need to at least be looking at it every year. So if at that point in time we hear conversations from them or others that it may change, at that point in time we could also propose changes to the future land use map. So then the next area is along Showboat Boulevard. The comprehensive plan currently shows that as the flex land use category. And flex is defined in the comprehensive plan as allowing a mix of commercial and industrial uses. However, since the Showboat Boulevard is fairly close to residential uses that currently exist, we felt it would be inappropriate to have industrial development along Showboat there. So what we're proposing is to have it as low-density residential, with the red would be commercial directly off of Showboat. And then MPH, the Motorsport Park Hastings, is currently shown as industrial. That one, we're also proposing that campus land use category to account for the variety of uses there. They currently have the racetrack itself, they have a restaurant, they have garage condos that basically have residential living quarters in it. So with that one as well, any development that they have planned in the future, we would like to see a campus master plan from them as well.
The next steps is, once we get this document completed and make any adjustments that we receive, it will go to the planning commission, and the planning commission will vote on these change, or the updates to the comprehensive plan. And once that goes through, then we take it to the city council. They may make some changes to it, and then they adopt it and pass it. And it takes 3 readings to pass it. So there'll be 3 public hearings for the public to input their ideas or changes that they feel that they need to be put in.
Does the city council take part in any of these planning sessions other than these?
We're gonna try to have a work session with them. We're struggling because budget will take up a lot of their work session time, but we'd like to do a work session with them so we can take our time and answer any questions that they might have or concerns about some of the changes that we're making to the comp plan.
So they're not actually helping or assisting with the formation?
All they have to do is give us the idea or give us what they want to see changed in there, and we look at the change and see if it fits the comp plan, or see if it fits what Hastings needs. Then we put it in there.
For the comprehensive plan then, and you make these changes and it gets adopted, are you changing the zoning?
The zoning would be the next step. We're currently working on a rewrite to the entire zoning regulations. And so with the zoning regulations, those would have to be in line with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, but isn't the comprehensive plan and the zoning map two different documents?
Yes, they are two
They're
different,
not meant to be exactly the same, correct?
not exactly the same, but in line with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so you could leave you could say in the comprehensive plan, you want this land to be zoned, could be zoned this, but you could actually just leave it zoned as it is.
It needs to be in general conformance with the comprehensive plan, so, for example, we currently have agricultural land outside of our city limits. That would remain agricultural until a point where it may develop. If the comprehensive plan shows that as low-density residential, we're not going to zone it to a residential district at this point, but then in the future, when a developer may want to develop it, they would have to apply to rezone the property. It would then go through planning commission and council to rezone it to a residential district, because that rezoning would then have to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, is that what you're gonna do with all of the properties then, or are you taking some and actually rezoning them to meet the comprehensive plan?
When we do the zoning updates to the entire city, we created some new zoning districts as well as made changes to the zoning districts. And so the properties that we are rezoning, some properties will be in a similar zoning district as they currently are. Others may be changed to reflect the neighborhood.
And will the owners of the property be notified that this is going to happen?
So considering these are changes to the entire community, it will be notified through the newspaper, and it will be at planning commission and council meetings.
So is that stuff you're doing already on your own and we don't have any say in it? Or that's gonna go through this?
We've had
Process.
multiple public meetings already. There are still more public meetings upcoming as well. We have been working on that draft in the meantime, but it is not finalized at this point in time.
It's
So the
still a
ones
draft
that
form.
you're thinking about already rezoning isn't a done deal yet?
No.
So when we had the last meeting and some of us weren't happy, a lot of us weren't happy. So you take that into consideration?
Yeah, we've
So-
been working on making changes based off of the feedback we have heard. We're also working on a zoning dashboard that will include a map and frequently asked questions that we've heard certain questions multiple times, and that way we'll have the answers there instead of constantly having the same questions and answered.
So, you're working on that, so I understand it's not done, but where can we find the updated or the stuff that you've changed that you're not gonna do that we weren't happy with, or where or when can we see that?
So
I'm not good on the Engage Hastings website, I'm not good on that, so I'm sorry.
So, well, that's where we are posting things. We have Engage Hastings under this all projects.
That's not good enough.
It's that development codes update one. And under that development codes, we have our proposed zoning districts. We have each of the sections that we have drafted at this point in time. And those may also be updated, like here's one from 416 for the commercial districts, and we updated it on the 9th of this month. So this is where we have all of our updates. The next time we do have a public meeting to discuss changes, we do always work with Tony to post that on the city's Facebook page, on the city's website, to let people know of any upcoming meetings.
So I guess I'm concerned with Ward 4 and the 3-story. Have you made changes with that, with the 3 stories, or the 11.67 per dwelling area?
In certain districts, such as high-density residential, like think Elm 26, that would be allowed to be 3 stories apartment complexes. Other parts of town is limited to 20 feet. 20 feet would be 2 stories. They would not be able to build taller than that. And that's also part of what we're going to be including in our zoning dashboard. Is what we're planning to include is a map that shows how many units maximum would be allowed on each property. So that would be a color-coded map with, say, 1 unit's the only thing allowed, it would be like a light yellow color. If it's only 2, orange, 3 or more, red, but that's a map that we're currently working on to show how these changes would actually affect the properties.
So when you get that map done, then we have another meeting, or we can give direct feedback to somebody in your office? Okay.
At Development Services, our office is at 3505 Yost Avenue. It's right behind Menards. It's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and we'd always be happy to have anyone stop in, ask questions. We can show you the drafts we currently have. We can print out a copy for you.
That's the office for a few more weeks.
Well, yeah, until we move to City Hall.
Ember, what's your timeline for actually having all of it put together so that we can review it?
So with the comprehensive plan, the draft you have in front of you, unless there's changes you want made, the intent would be to bring that to a work session in the upcoming months and then hopefully start the adoption process around August. For the zoning updates, we're still working, we don't even have certain sections drafted at all yet. So that one would be closer to the end of the year before we get into the work sessions, and then hopefully early next year, the adoption for that.
I guess I've heard some concerns of changing single housing to medium density. I think that's a problem.
Yes.
You could take something that is down a lot, and then all of a sudden you'll have cars parking on the grass, and you see it now. So.
Well, and that's also why we're planning on making that map to show how many units would be allowed on a lot. Because most lots throughout town, if they're currently 50 feet by 100, a 5,000 square foot lot, there's no space to put more than 1 unit. So with the parking requirements we have in here, with the height restrictions, with the minimum lot sizes, that's not going to happen. It would not be allowed.
Well, how big of lots are you talking for multi-housing? What's the minimum size?
So in a R2 medium density residential district, we'd be proposing 4,000 square feet per unit. So if they wanted to build a duplex, they would need an 8,000 square foot lot. If they wanted to build bigger than that, they would need more square footage. In the R1 low density residential district, say Laughlin, that would be 6,500 square feet per unit as well.
You're talking the size of the building.
The size of the lot.
Size of the lot.
Well, you say 4,000 square foot.
So if someone wants to build 2 units on a lot, so a duplex, they would need to have 4,000 square foot of lot area for each of those units.
Would they
So-
be a duplex or 2 units, 2 separate units? Because we're getting those already on the south side of town, 2 units on 1 lot.
Currently, 2 units on 1 lot is not allowed.
Really?
So in certain parts of town, they already exist because
Right.
in the past, those were developed under the codes at that time. At this point in time, we do not allow 2 units on 1 lot. They have to all be on their own lot. So that is something we do not have specified in these proposed changes, whether the units have to be attached or separate. So in that case, if someone has 8,000 square foot of lot area, they would be able to put 2 separate houses on that lot, or they would be able to put 1 duplex. But they would need 8,000 square foot of lot area. They would need to account for their parking on that lot as well as landscaping. If they're able to fit all of that on that 8,000 square foot lot, then they might be able to put 2 units on it.
Now, is that all spelled out on this? In this?
Yes, so that is in the proposed residential district regulations. That talks about your R0 would be your large lot residential district, R1 low density residential district, R2 medium density residential district, R3 high density residential district, and
That's
R4,
all
which is the
included in
residential
there.
village
We could look
district.
it up.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all in there, all of the details in terms of height regulations, in terms of lot coverage, minimum lot sizes, setbacks, all of that information's in there. And we'd be happy to walk anyone through the specifics of that if you want to come in at our office.
I have a question about your communication. A lot of people, my friends, do not take the paper. So can you put it on Facebook or something about these meetings?
These meetings?
Well, this is on the city's website here.
Yeah, good.
You're on Facebook.
Yeah.
City Hall puts them on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just gotta watch the City Hall site.
But like I said, we can print out, if you come to the office, we can print out any document you want, and we can hand you a copy of the document. And we can go over with you. Like I said, we've had one-on-ones with people already that are asking questions and not sure what's going on. So we'll do one-on-ones with as many people as we need to.
Yeah, go ahead.
To address the zoning updates, I own a property on East South Street that's currently zoned light industrial. I noticed that a lot of that area on your map was going to be zoned a residential. How would that affect other places in the area? I see where Vikey signs, Stan's Radiator, the daycare at Park in California, the church at Pine and South Street, the old grain inspection on California by Park Street, the Kelly Supply Building, that small engine repair at Park and Pine, all of that is going to be zoned for residential use. If plans change and the people that own businesses and stuff in that area, will they, anybody that wants to put something new there, have to follow the residential codes for all of that? Will they be able to have a business there again?
So in this purple area, I think you said Park and Pine, that's this area. That would be the medium density residential district. So if it is in a residential district, if the zoning is also residential, once we get that adopted, then any new development on the property would have to comply with those residential zoning districts and the allowed uses on the property. However, if the building already exists, that would be considered a non-conforming structure and would be allowed to remain as is. So if it's already a business there, they maintain the business, they keep the property as is, they're allowed to keep their business.
But they'd be
What if
restricted
something
on
new
lot
comes
size, right, and setbacks, if they wanted to add on to their commercial building.
Yeah, if they wanted to add
So
on
it'd
to the
have-
building, they'd have to comply with the setbacks
So they're
and
gonna
the lot
lose, they're
coverage,
gonna lose buildable area then, so.
potentially.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, we're trying to promote business and promote, you know, growth that would bring wages and help support the tax base. Why do you want to try to limit what can be done? There is a lot of businesses in that area, several businesses.
On my property,
We created a commercial corridor along South Street, go a half a block to the north and half a block to the south. But then you've got residential in there that now they can't do anything with their house, just like the business couldn't. So you either do one or the other.
so it's been the other way for 100 years.
100 years, yes.
So now we're wanting to change it because nothing has happened other than we hired a company to draw lines on a map.
Well, we didn't hire a company to do lights. We looked at the character of every neighborhood. We looked at every parcel in the city of Hastings. And we looked at the character of the neighborhood. Now, there's neighborhoods that don't fit any character, and this is one of them. So we proposed a change. Well, we're hearing feedback on this change.
So-
You're uncomfortable with that change. My proposal would be to go a half block to the north, half a block to the south, and recreate a commercial district, whether it be probably a C3.
I don't know what's gonna happen there after the roundabout goes in, but there is, you know, that, I don't know that that'll always be residential through there with what is going on.
And that's all we're trying to do is preserve that residential character.
But my
Even though
lot,
there is industrial uses in that area.
my lot is 69 by 167, a little over 11,000 square feet. With, under the new residential rules and setbacks, I lose 2,000 square feet of buildable space if I want to add on to my garage. I have to stay 5 foot off the lot line instead of either 2 it or 3 foot off, all the way around.
Yep.
So I'm just,
Like I said, that's the other option. We can take this and turn it into a commercial corridor and zone it commercial.
that sounds more progressive,
But
but
we turn the tables. Now the home, he can't add on to his home, he can't add on a garage, because now he's the non-conforming use. So we're trying to find that happy medium between all the uses in that district, all the uses in the whole city. Now, are we gonna achieve that? I think we're trying to do the best we can. Is there places that we can't fit anything? Yes. So this is where we need the input from the citizens that live there, go, what's the best for us?
well, I'm
Let's look at
surprised
that.
that like Kelly Supply, where you've got Duncan Field, why that line can't be crooked for something, for a place like that. You've got half of Dally's Deli's parking lot is gonna be residential. You've got, you know, it's just, there's a lot of other places that come farther down to the route, south, that Ivan Bingston used to have his shop down there on B in Minnesota, and that's gonna be residential.
That's just it. If we do one, we push out the other. If we do the other, we push out the other. So that's what I'm trying to find a happy medium between all of the uses of that South Street.
Let's not forget that the houses sit empty if the businesses don't exist.
True. We took everything into account. And that's why this is a proposal. We haven't met in the middle anywhere yet.
So if
So
the current,
we can change our proposal and come back with something else, and then you guys can go, okay, that works for everybody.
so
But
if,
everybody has to say that.
so if a current owner retires, can he sell that business to someone else and it
It's the
stays right
use.
there?
It's the use, not the owner. If it's a commercial business and it's being used as a commercial business, it's the use. We don't control the ownership.
But if it would get damaged more than 51%, then it cannot be rebuilt.
Yes. If we change the
If
district
you change it,
regulations.
and it would have 51% destruction, or wind comes through and rips all the tin off the steel building,
Yep.
then it can't be rebuilt.
Or it floods or whatever, it doesn't matter what the destruction is.
I have a question. Could you zoom into the area by the cemeteries, north of Hastings College? It looks like on this map they're zoned medium density residential, but I can't zoom in but.
That's along East Fall Street. Yep, right there, yep.
Is it these properties?
No, the cemeteries themselves, those right there.
Oh, the cemetery itself would be residential.
Really?
Long-term residential.
It could be changed to parks and recreation. That's the way it's currently in the comprehensive plan, and we didn't change that.
Hey, Kevin,
High density residential, right?
Medium density, actually.
if it's been that way for 100 years, do we need to do anything?
Yeah, I'm changing.
Remember what the purpose of the comprehensive plan and updating our codes. We want to align both of them together. Just because it's 100 years, we want everything to align.
So,
Can we get it to align? I'm hoping for 90%.
so can it be parks? I guess I'm still confused why it's residential.
That was something we hadn't changed since the consultant did the comprehensive plan. I don't know necessarily what their thoughts were when they created the comprehensive plan. That is something at this point in time, if we do not feel that that is accurate, that in the next 20 years it could develop with residential, we're not only looking at what it currently is used as, we're looking at in 20 years, could it potentially develop as residential? If it has been 100 years and it's been a cemetery, yes, that's unlikely, and it would make more sense to show that as Parks and Recreation. That is a change that, it's not something that we had noticed, but that's why we have these meetings. You've now brought it up. That's something we could in fact change.
But like Hartwell Park, down the middle of that, that's the blue. That's your Parks and Recreation, okay? All we do is change the color of the cemetery to Parks and Recreation, and then propose that change in our zoning code.
But the people we hired and paid to do this was a third party, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then, does anybody else feel like they were completely incompetent when they didn't know the cemetery was? Cemetery? That completely negates, if I did my job that bad, I'd be broke.
Well, once again, I'm not gonna look back, we are looking forward. We're trying to provide a document with the input of the community to better reflect what the community needs.
What is a cemetery actually zoned?
Oh, let me pull up the zoning map.
Our property. Living quarters. No, they cut the grass. Yeah. So they had a good idea. They That's a pretty good idea.
That was my summer job for 3 years.
Right. So you don't necessarily
No, first time. What do you guys have?
Yeah.
This was chemical killed.
But I just, you do have.
Really? Just about that far away from here. I think that's a heck of an idea. It could be a
They
little
can't
more accurate.
sell this thing. It's not showing.
And that's
Because you gotta relieve the property.
I just take the weed.
That was a great story. David's Ranch, John Milton.
Yeah, I mean, right, so if it's the house. Mikey Simon can't go to the old building because it's old. That doesn't.
What's that? We're having trouble pulling up some of the zoning in the city, so we'll have to talk to Lindsay, our GIS, and see why we can't pull that up.
I agree. That's what I just said. I said, does anybody else feel like this? No, I'm just saying. Right.
Okay, but once again, we have the museum property with the cemetery off of 12th and Burlington. That is owned R1 too.
So that's a residential district for the museum as well.
We can't hear you. You need to talk louder, get a mic.
The museum and the cemetery in that area is currently zoned R1 residential district as well. It is fairly typical for schools, museums, those types of properties to be zoned in the residential district along with the neighborhoods around them. And for some reason, the zoning is not wanting to show up for that Parkview Cemetery, so that's something we'll have to talk to our GIS coordinator about. But it's possible that it's already zoned in the residential district, hence why the consultant showed that as residential in the future.
So if you show more residential, then you actually have usable residential, does that change the the whole scheme of the comprehensive plan?
Not really.
By a percentage, or?
Are we gonna, in the next 20 years, are we gonna build houses in the cemetery?
No, that's why I'm asking, if you have more resident R1 on the map, does the computer look at, you've got this much area that is R1, therefore this is,
We don't look at it as a percentage out of the total community at all, so we don't know how much land in the community is shown as residential currently, or commercial, or any of the other uses. This is just in the next 20 years, it could be developed in that way. So same with the school property, if a school were to leave the neighborhood and it were to be redeveloped, it's in the middle of a neighborhood. Think like
Middle school.
the middle school. Everything around it is residential. If it were to redevelop, we would like to see residential there as well. Or a lot of the elementary schools, they're in the middle of a residential neighborhood. That's why it's also shown as residential.
What are the blue lines on there, in the R1 there, and then across where the car wash is, what does that blue line indicate?
That is a telephone easement.
Yeah, our maps contain a lot of information, so sometimes that information can't be transmitted onto a map at certain times. And this is all available to the public. You can go to our website and pull up any one of these maps and click whatever you want to see, and it's available to anybody.
Kevin, I have a question.
Sure.
If you change the dynamics of how much R1, R2 you have in your community, does that change grants or those kind of things from a federal level?
No, it doesn't. The only thing that changes grants is if the areas that are blighted and substandard, or if they have income guidelines that the government uses to create sectors of where they need to give money to. But no, the amount of residential doesn't change any of grant opportunities.
Kevin, at our previous discussions, I've questioned you pretty hard about this, and, my first question was, so you're telling me if we do this, like all those big houses on North Lincoln, those big 6-bedroom houses, somebody come in, buy that, turn that into an apartment house? And when we talked originally, has that changed at all, or is that still gonna be allowable?
They have to meet all the other guidelines that Ember discussed. Just because it's an R1 and we switch it to R2, you're only allowed 4 units. If the lot allows for those 4 units. Those other guidelines that you have to meet, you can't just build a 6 or a 3-story apartment building.
Right, but if you would buy, just here again, but that is, they could put 4 apartments in that house if it meets all the other guidelines.
If it's zoned correctly, yes.
Then the other question I had is, so somebody could go in and buy 2 lots on Ringland Road for whatever reason, tear the houses down, and now they could put up a duplex or if the lots were big enough, which you might need 3 lots over there. But
right, depending on the zoning, what that zoning is, and they meet all the other requirements.
And nothing we can do about it at that point once this is passed.
No.
If there's multiple lots and they want to build one structure across that, they would have to go through the subdivision process to combine those 2 lots
Have to
into
rezone
one
the lot,
before being able to develop.
That's all you do.
So we don't want, that's what I think a lot of us don't want the neighborhoods, especially in that area.
Well, I think there's a lot of areas in town that I think most people want to protect.
Well,
What I call Old Hastings, and that's what I call the old part of town. I guess when I look at it, I think we're not landlocked by any means. We've got a lot of areas that we can do medium density, high density. We've already been doing that in other areas of town.
Yes.
I personally feel like we need to protect the old part of Hastings, because that's going to affect those communities more than it's going to affect like Hastings, Lockland.
And that's, like I said, we brought that chart up on densities and 7 other communities. We don't want to be like those communities. We're trying to find a happy medium for what Hastings wants. Okay? We don't want to be Grand Island that has 47 units per acre. We don't want that. But we also don't want to be Kearney where all they have is single family homes and no apartments, no duplexes, no nothing.
Well, they
We're
do.
trying, well, they do, but they're limited.
I mean, they've done a
Yeah.
nice job, if you ask me. Carney's,
Yeah.
Carney's wonderful.
Yes,
I would prefer to be Carney if you were gonna ask me who I wanted to emulate.
but Kearney is also in the same process that we are. They're looking at their codes to accommodate, what did I mention? The Fair Housing Act. And the state statutes are requiring to allow for certain types of missing middle. And that's all we're trying to achieve.
But those housing acts, they do not say that it has to be 4 units per
No.
lot.
It doesn't
It
say
does
for,
not clear, it doesn't say that at all.
It
This is
doesn't-
ideological. This
it
is
doesn't
not.
say 4 units specifically, however, we did work on an affordable housing action plan with consultants that did address the need for missing middle housing. And the map that they actually have in their plan shows missing middle housing allowed throughout basically the entirety of the community. What we're proposing is not that. We're not proposing to allow it everywhere in the community.
I don't think the consultants understand Hastings. They're not from here. They haven't lived here.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's missing in this.
But that's why we're making the adjustments, because we're listening to you. We're using our planning principles to try to get to a space that everybody's happy with. And that's why we've had all these public meetings. We talk and we talk and we talk and we listen and we listen and listen. We'll come up with a happy medium. Is it gonna be easy? No. Because I may make you happy, but I'll make these people unhappy. What about the people that own rentals in town? If we start limiting the rentals, they're gonna go, okay, I'll take my money and go somewhere else. So we have to make everybody happy. All 25,000 citizens have to be comfortable or semi-happy with what we're trying to achieve.
Do we feel like as a city, and you guys have looked over these third-party consultants, that you agree with their determination that they're completely limited in that section of housing? Or are we just relying on the third party to
No.
just make the call and just say, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing?
If we agreed with the consultants with our comp plan that was adopted in 2025, you wouldn't see any of this on the map. We would just take their word for it. We didn't. We went in and changed everything. We brought our demographics up to current data, and we're changing our future land use to better reflect what the city of Hastings is. You're the city of Hastings. Okay? We're trying to reflect that. But everybody else is the city of Hastings. Your needs are a little different than somebody else's needs. Okay? We have to mesh that all together and find a happy medium. The consultants didn't do that. We are as a department, as a city, we're trying to do that.
Well, and I think as you talk about, we need to find that middle ground for housing. I think we have plenty of areas we could build new stuff that would probably meet that middle ground, but what seems to be proposed is now the areas of town that would be our middle to low income neighborhoods. I think by doing this, you're going to now increase the value of that property, because now that single family home now could possibly be a property that now can be turned into a multi-unit rental. And we already have influx of corporate housing that purchases our properties, and it's harder for entry-level people to find a house to buy.
And that's why we're proposing the missing middle, tiny homes, cottage courts, houses that are 500 to 600 square feet. Somebody, a young family, can afford a 500 square foot house. They're not going to live there forever. They'll stay there until they save enough money and buy one of those large houses. We're just giving the opportunity for these people to have ownership and stay here and make this their home. If we don't allow this, they're not going to stay here.
Folks, I gotta go coach baseball game for my little boy. This is great though. 40 people showing up for this. This is what it's all about in a community. Get together, hash this stuff out. My personal opinion, maybe not worth it, but I think we could have saved $140,000, Kevin, and just had you guys do it internally and paid attention to what Hastings needed and not even worry about this comprehensive plan.
Well, like
that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, we're past that point.
And I think that, we're past that. I think we need to look at the comprehensive plan as a guideline and nothing more, and go off of what these people are saying that they want, exactly what they're doing. And next time they come around with a consultant firm, we can spend $140,000 on a park.
Oh, I agree, Mayor.
Okay. See you guys. All right, go Braves.
I got a question for you, Kevin.
Yep.
So here's a picture that I see. We drove by the D and Cedar projects. Those are all like a block of buildings. Okay, there's a lady sitting on the porch in the house across the street. She's got a porch that's probably 50 foot long, whatever it is, a nice old ranch style house. And now she's looking across the street at this development.
Disgusting.
I'm thinking, I didn't ask her, but I'm thinking in my own opinion, and a lot of people that I know, that's what they wouldn't want to end up across the street from them. Now, I know in this situation it happened, they were probably notified, they didn't do their due diligence to protest it. But with this plan moving forward, would it be possible for somebody to do that and you wouldn't have the opportunity to protest it once the zoning gets changed?
That's a high-density area, that's an R3, I believe, wasn't it? Okay, that's an R3, that's why that density is so high there. We're not gonna allow R3 in only certain areas of town, okay? High density only has a fit for certain areas, okay? That's your buffer between your heavy commercial areas and your R2s, your 1 and 2 families, or your low density. Okay, R3 is used as a buffer. Now, is it used correctly most of the time? No. But in that situation, you have industrial to the south, you have R1 to the north. There is your buffer. Now you have R3 there. Just because they look out at a multi-unit complex, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Well, I'm just saying, in my opinion, that's a bad thing. I would definitely not want to look at that, but.
Would she rather have a dirt pile with heavy equipment coming in and out at all hours of the day?
I would.
That's the choice. That was industrial.
I got that, so, I mean.
We're trying to use the building blocks of planning to appropriately create zoning districts that match what they're supposed to do. Does it work all the time? No, especially when we've got 40 years of going, oh, let's do it here, no matter what the consequences. We're trying to look at the consequences at our future land use map and match that up with the existing land use. So we don't have certain areas that are inappropriate, okay? Growth is growth, whether it be multifamily, high density, or single family. If you want a community that's full of single family, there's lots of cities that have single family growth. But also the tax burden's more because everybody's carrying the load. Now, if you go to a high density in Grand Island, there's more people carrying that load. Everybody pays that tax, whether it's through rent or home ownership. Everybody carries that load. If only 25,000 citizens are carrying that load and we increase to 35,000 citizens, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Now there's 10,000 more people carrying that tax load because the infrastructure isn't changing because we're good at what we do. We only put infrastructure when we can afford to do it. So that cost isn't there. The only thing we're getting is 10,000 more people paying property tax or carrying that load of the property tax. That's a part of your growth law. Do we want to be high density? No. No. We want to maintain the characters of our single family neighborhoods.
Okay, so just to be clear, not to interrupt you, the only thing that I was asking in that scenario was if you happen to own that ranch style house and there's an empty field over there, if somebody buys that empty field that you were used to just looking out to an empty field or an old dumpy house, whatever it was, but now it's going to turn into an apartment complex that may, whatever it consists of, will you, with this new plan, will you still have an opportunity to protest that or to fight that, or with the new plan, if somebody buys it, they can just automatically do it? I mean, I'm not questioning who buys it or what they do with it.
It depends on what that's zoned. If it's a rezoning request, like that was, everybody within 300 feet gets notified. Then it goes to the planning commission. They have a public hearing to voice their concerns, which we had our last planning commission. We had 5 letters and 2 people show up. They didn't want an R2 in an R1 neighborhood, which there was R2 adjacent to the R1 neighborhood, but they voiced their opinions, and the planning commission listened to them and voted 1 to 6 to not approve the rezoning request.
So with the new plan, they would still have to rezone?
That doesn't change.
Okay.
That
answers
doesn't change.
the question.
You said you were gonna automatically change some.
Some areas, yes. Some areas, no.
So you can't go in and try to do that. You
Well,
have to get it changed before you approve it.
Some, yes, but you'll have a public hearing when these changes go through the planning commission, and then 3 for the city council. There's ample opportunity for people to voice their concerns. Hopefully, we can address those concerns before we get there. You
Like
know,
in that area Mike was talking about, if there's not that many people in that area to complain, like that ranch-style house, there wasn't that
whether
many
it takes,
neighbors on
it
that
takes 1 or
side.
5, it doesn't matter. We hear their
So you're
complaints.
gonna listen, if there's only one person in the area, you're gonna do
I'm
what they
gonna
say?
refer back to Chuck, the planning commission president. Did you listen to those 2 people that stood up?
Yeah, we did. We listened to them, the letters, and the real disappointment was the person that wanted to develop it wasn't there to explain it. He should have made an effort to visit with the neighbors prior to that. I've seen it happen with Dunkin' Donuts in the past where, you know, that was opposed and then they made changes and went around to talk to the neighbors. You got to do that because we're listening to the community. We're not going to
There was no plans
stamp
to look
anything.
at, we had nothing to even know what they were gonna build, so.
Where does the 300 feet come from, yeah?
That's state statutes. The state of Nebraska requires us to notify anybody within a 300-foot boundary around the property.
Can we make it 600 or 1,000 in Hastings?
If the state statute changes to
No, I'm not
600,
saying the state. Can we in Hastings?
we can be more restrictive, yes, we can go out further. If you want that, we can.
300 feet is nothing.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, every city that I work for it's a 300-foot boundary. If you want us to go to 600 feet or 1,000 feet, you know how much it costs to send letters to everybody within 1,000 feet?
Yeah, but I also know how much more input you're gonna get from those other people, because like I say, 300 feet is nothing. And my lot's 300 feet.
Yeah, we can change our code to reflect 1,000 feet.
Kevin, do you have to also put that in the paper and you have to post it on the lot that's being changed, correct?
Yes.
So if you're driving past it, there's a sign that says, this has a public hearing. So there's plenty of opportunity
for public
people in
input.
that neighborhood, or if you're driving by it, you'd be able to see and say, hey, I don't want that changed, and you could come to it, right? Like that's.
They change it as part of the comprehensive plan, then that.
The big changes that everybody's concerned about, we're changing a lot of the city. We can't do a 300-foot notice. Cities rarely ever do this. The only reason we're doing this is a corrective measure to correct zoning that's not appropriate. Okay? We're trying to do it the most gentlest way. Okay? Is there a gentle way? We're not going to make everybody happy. Okay? We've made adjustments. We've looked at the map again and again and again and again. We have made adjustments. Does that mean we're done? No. So we'll keep making adjustments until we find that happy medium that I talked about.
And if it's undeveloped land, they could come and protest to have that changed in the future.
But remember, there's a difference. We're building new. It's easy to control new.
Yep.
Okay? What we're thinking about is nobody gets is we have that comprehensive plan that thinks 20 years into the future. What do you want that neighborhood to look like in 20 years? You want it not to change?
I think that's what most of us here would like, is our neighborhoods not to change in the next 20 years. I
That
mean,
means if
I think
we
we
leave
all chose our neighborhoods, and some of us are gonna be there for the next, well, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll be there for another 20 years, and we chose that for that
Then the
reason.
only growth you sustain is if you take more agricultural land and you build new structures on it. That's the only growth you can get then. You can't redevelop existing land.
Yeah, we're not landlocked.
No, we're not. But every time we gobble up a chunk of agricultural land, we get, well, we're ruining the agriculture. We're taking away production land. Well, land comes from somewhere.
Well, and the
Who have
infrastructure.
you heard that from? I saw 30 people just shake their head.
We've had complaints at the planning commission that we're taking agricultural land when we do a blight substance study.
We did have, I was on RPC when we tried to expand or to do.
And you had to purchase that anyways, correct?
Yeah, you have to purchase it.
You have to purchase it.
Yeah.
Every time we go in and say we want more land outside of Hastings, annexation,
There's a process that we have to go
huge complaints when we annex stuff out in the ag sector. I mean, I was on P&Z with Chuck and they threatened to sue the city for that change
Actually,
of
somebody
expansion.
actually did sue the city on
Yeah,
that one.
so that.
In which direction was this?
It was gonna be out towards, actually north of the cemetery and east of Menards.
Yep.
They came at us and said, you do not, we're gonna sue you. So, and it's changes things like bringing them into the city. They already have their existing well, they don't wanna pay the city taxes, I get all that. But when you have a donut hole inside there and it's sitting as ag, that causes an issue for the city to have to develop around that for that purpose. So we've been threatened when we go expanding outside the city from ag and from current farmers in the community.
Well, and also, the more we expand out, the more we also have to pay for infrastructure. That is new streets, sewer, water, all that adds expense as well. And so that's why we're looking at both expanding out and redeveloping within city limits.
Developer usually pays for that.
No, not all of it.
I know developers will usually pay for that.
We pay for the power that has to get out there. That's why we want a lot of industrial to grow out towards south and east. We don't want it to grow out north towards Laughlin because we don't have the power to go after those resources. So when we say that we're developing areas, we still have to develop internally the material that has to go that way. So whether that's larger sewer, whether that's larger gas pipes, or whether that's more electricity, when we change those zoning areas, we have to develop towards that direction too. So it's not just the developers picking up the cost, and it's a percentage, it's not all of it.
So,
You also don't want to see your community hollow out. I know you've all been to places where they've let their interior decline. They've let their older neighborhoods decay because they haven't done this kind of a modernization. And you see the community sprawl out, but you don't see investment in the inner anymore. And this kind of zoning discussion is what gives us a chance to look at our core and say, what does this look like now? What do we want it to look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? You know, do we want it to be hollowed out and all the growth and progress to be just on the outsides?
You make a good point there. There's for sure bigger communities, if you go look at certain sections of Omaha, they've definitely done a bad job with the neglect on certain parts there. Now, I think we would all be in agreement here that if you have rundown houses, you have certain types of deals that somebody comes in and buys those and develops those is one thing. But to limit what bikey signs can build on the north section of their lot, if they want to put a building in there to expand to now do other things in there, you know,
Well,
and that was just for an example,
Yeah,
but.
that's
you know,
something that we need to look at.
Yeah, and we have to get somewhere. We can't just go with a comprehensive plan and then not. But the other thing is like Kevin's saying, which I'm a huge fan of this operation anyways, but we all need to come to their office and go and actually get something done. We can't just come to this meeting and get it all done. It's not gonna happen.
No.
It's not. You got to go to their office, you gotta voice those
It
opinions.
takes a
on
lot
what's
of
going on.
conversation.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm seeing lines on a map. I have driven the streets of Hastings, and my question is, it's okay to put the lines up there, but who in the world checks compliance? You know, we talk 4 families in a home, or in 4-family homes, and we might have 4 families living in the house next to us, you know, unpermitted or anything else, they just move in.
I'm only going to ask
So
one question.
I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who is making sure that this stays, if it happens, I'm kind of with Becky on it, if it happens, what makes that so that you can enforce it? Because we can't do anything about the cars parked on our street. We can't do anything about the dogs. We can't do anything about the people living next door, with 3 families in there. I mean, what are you guys doing?
We do enforcement every day. We do it through the planning commission, we do it through the city council, and we do it every time we drive down the street and we see a sign that doesn't have a sign permit. We stop, we get it out of the right of way. Can we enforce 100% of everything that's in that book? Just like the speeding sign. You have a choice. You can either follow the speed limit or you can break the speed limit. That doesn't change with people living in houses. They can choose to not follow the rules, okay? But we can't peek in your door or their door to see if they're doing anything wrong. Okay, we have limitations. You have constitutional rights. We don't want to break that. We have to trust you that you're doing the right thing.
So
If you put a bathroom in your house without a building permit, is that my fault or is that your fault?
Were you involved when Elm and 26th,
I was involved in a part of that process.
you were?
Yep.
When the traffic flow is horrendous.
Well, there is traffic out there. They did do a traffic, we made them do a traffic study, and they felt that there wasn't going to be a detrimental increase in traffic for that area. Now, if that changes, we'll change the speed limit. We're talking about going to 35, slow the traffic down a little bit.
Yeah, you wait forever to get on 26. Yeah.
So it doesn't help that we have construction on South Street and everybody's going on 12th and 26th.
I think all of us are familiar with neighborhoods like, and I hate to call this out, I don't know who owns it anymore, but you look at B and Pine, D and Pine, you know, and when we think of this medium density housing, I remember when all that was built, you know, I remember when they moved them two big houses in from the Air Force Base and turned them into apartment houses and then put up all them duplexes across the road, and I thought, man, this is a really nice neighborhood. They've done a really nice job with this. This will be nice for lower income people. It'll give them a nice neighborhood. Well, 20 years later, we all know what that looks like, and we know the riffraff that inhabits those buildings, and I'm just going to call it out.
Right.
I think that's what concerns most everybody that lives within the city.
And that is a huge
We don't want that in our neighborhood.
And those properties are in the process of being dealt with. But once again, that's the choice of the property owner to do exactly what he did.
I 100% agree.
I can't control that. I can only punish him in the end.
I think some of this zoning opens us up to more of that.
It's like on E
Because-
in Baltimore and the housing on H Street, who oversees that? Because they were nice when they started, but now what's in there and what it looks like on the outside and.
So we started driving around town, taking pictures of houses that are, let's find a happy medium, that are not great and need work, they need paint or whatever against property maintenance code. I start sending out 10,000 letters.
Oh my.
I'm not lying.
So who's going to be the bad guy here? Because I'm making you, the property owner, be responsible for your property.
What was the guy's name that used had a little brown car, used to drive around years ago? That was his job.
Yeah, I just had one, somebody sent it to me last week, and I actually contacted Mark, our city administrator. Mark contacted our code enforcement, sent it over, because there's tons of violations on that property. It happens all the time, the city council will get those little nuggets from the citizens to say, hey, this is unsafe, or hey, they have problems with their sidewalks, or hey, their roof's got issues. We can't see everything, but the citizens can, and they can report that stuff.
And that's what you need to do. Over there across from St. Paul Lutheran, they tore down those 3 houses. It took me 40 years to get anybody to wake up.
Yeah,
I took pictures and sent them in. Yeah. They took them down.
So what does the community service person do? I mean, I know they put up signs for people to mow their yard.
Yeah, they basically take care of nuisances, which is your grass, junk in the yards, vehicles, parking. That's all covered in Chapter 6 of our municipal code.
Okay.
And what Development Services
One area
does.
they put a sign about needing mowed where, I mean, it wasn't really one place that would bother anybody, but then you walk a few blocks or a mile down, and there's all kinds of yards that are the same way, that are right there with houses right next to them, and there's nothing.
I can't speak to that because I am not in charge of the CSOs. I just know that my code enforcement officer that handles property maintenance code, when he receives a complaint, he starts it in what we call iWorks, and he tracks it from beginning to when it goes to court. And we have several things that are in court. We're waiting for the judge, or we're waiting for the owner, or we're waiting for something. Sometimes it takes 1.5 years to get things to court. Is that an efficient process?
I'm gonna have to call Jesse to see how he does things.
It's not Jesse, it's just the system. Because if they don't show up, they get it postponed.
Yeah, I know.
Or if they don't show up, they get it.
Something like that done in 1.5 years, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really
So
kind of miraculous.
we face that every day. So I'd rather have a solution of, let's not have the problem. Let's work with the homeowner and get them to fix it up. Now, not every homeowner is going to be able to afford to fix it up. So let's give them a plan. What if you put $300 worth of paint on your house? Or fix a screen door?
So can they do that for those lower housing places that are shambles now?
Well, those are controlled by somebody else. We can. We can go after them.
Well, the problem is too, is some of this rental property, the landlord's.
The landlord's not even here, so we send a certified letter,
Yeah.
which is $7.35, to that landowner, saying these are your violations, you have 30 days to fix it up. If he doesn't respond, we send another letter, and then it goes to Jesse, and then Jesse has to file a suit. We go back to the 1.5 years.
And then the landlord calls someone like me, and then
Yep.
the fight is on.
Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of LLCs in our community. Are they sending it to the registered agent? Because many, these LLCs are now silent. You can have silent partners in it all. How does the city deal with
Our process is we pull it up from the assessor's website, and whoever the legal owner is, that's who gets the
There is no,
certificate.
what they do is they use registered agents and it's an LLC, so you don't have an address. So what I'm asking, are you using the registered agent or who? In the case of
I don't know what Jesse
Elm and
uses.
26th Street, there's been 8 owners with different LLCs in that process. And I'm just asking, when people are filing a complaint, is the city using a registered agent?
I know Jesse does his research on trying to find the owners. Because when he takes it to the judge, he has to have
Well,
something.
I understand, we're seeing a lot of LLCs that are flipping. And if you get an LLC that's out in Wyoming or an LLC in Oklahoma, you'll never find the owners because it's not required. So I'm just asking, how do you all do that? Because that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing some foreign ownership or outside the state ownership, and you can't tell where that LLC's from.
And I can't speak to what Jesse does, his process is in finding the legal owner.
But I mean, when you call and ask them to fix, mow their weeds,
You usually get a notice on the door.
you just go to the manager, property manager?
No, we just post the property. State statutes allows us to post the property for that nuisance. That's why you see the postings on the doors and in the yards. We can post that property. If they don't comply within a certain period of time, state statutes allows us to take the next step. We notify them that we're gonna mow their lawn.
How tall's the grass gotta get before that happens?
What's that?
How tall's the grass gotta get before that happens?
Rob's looking for somebody to mow his yard.
And that's how some of them
get their yard
because it's cheaper for them to have the city do it, than pay the city do it. Because all it is a lien against their property. We don't get that money. You as a citizen don't get that money back until that property is sold. You didn't know that, did you? But that's the stuff that we have to budget for every year to handle these nuisances. If we have $10,000 in lawn mowing bills,
You can't put the bill on the front door?
who's gonna pay it? And if it's a lien, we file it with the courthouse.
They're not gonna mow, they're not gonna pay.
Is there any correlation between, you're looking at the comprehensive plan and the growth of the town? Is there any way that you're coordinating or correlating with the vacancy rate or occupancy rate of the rentals that we have built in the last few years? Because that's got to enter into, because you're heading towards medium density, is it necessary?
We do keep track of our rental rates or the rental occupancies in all the structures. We make phone calls on a regular basis to see what their occupancy
So
rate
is there a
is.
report out?
Is that in the housing dashboard?
I think it's in the housing dashboard.
What the vacancy is? So,
And
because
plus-
they say vacancy at 10% will create a slump, so are we gonna increase that if we go to medium density housing in other areas of town, or?
I don't see a huge increase in medium density, to tell you the truth, because there's not gonna be a lot of lots that are qualified for that
Yeah,
medium
but
density.
we've already got an overflow, it's gonna hurt somewhere.
Well, the housing study, we did another update last year to account for that housing growth, and that still identified a need for 900 housing units over the next 10 years. So even with the development we have had going on, those housing studies still show that we do need more development.
Is that from 30,000 feet or is that actual?
Yeah.
More housing,
That's from as accurate as numbers as we can attain.
what is the percentage of occupancy now in all of these apartments we have? I mean, general.
That's a good question.
Well, for the Elm 26 one, the first building is full. The second and third buildings, last time we talked to them, were at about 75%. And then those were the only 3 that were open at that point in time. So all of those buildings are filling up, and Elm 26 did say they also had a wait list for people for their units.
Yeah, I mean, you drive by there isn't a third of the parking lot full.
Correct.
I mean,
Here would be a problem potentially. There is called, in 1986, the federal government put in a low-income housing tax credit. You can be very careful because your valuation of your property, in this case, if you're talking about a apartment complex, you can only tax, by federal law, you can only tax that based upon the occupancy of the property, not the value of the property. So you have to be very careful that you don't get in trouble where you've got only a 10 or 20% occupancy in a complex, because it's going to affect your TIF. Because low-income housing tax credit, the federal law supersedes your TIF, and that's going to be a problem. And my concern is you build these huge complexes. If they say we only have 20% occupancy, you are never, the repayment of that loan is going to be, it's not going to be, it won't happen, because if they don't get their occupancy, you're stuck. Because of a 1986 law called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit. That's why the buzzword of affordable housing has been such a buzzword, is because of that LIHTC. People don't realize that, but that's real.
And that showed up on that property I looked at.
And that showed up on the tip, or on that survey that Brandy Chick did, was there was stuff about LIHTC, and I think it's real and it needs to be understood. So we don't end up in a situation where we overbuild, and now all of a sudden you can only tax that big building for $1 million when it was supposed to be worth $6 million.
Yeah, there are certain properties in town that use that low-income housing tax credits. Elm 26 was not one of those. They just use tax increment financing because that is a market rate apartment complex. I can't speak for the other ones because I'm not sure what type of funding sources they use on
But
those.
they can ask for LIHTC and get it. So I'm just concerned.
Just a question on the map. What do we have for industrial? Because I'm just thinking, we're building all these apartments, we need 900 more. We have 700 construction people out at Hartwell Renewable, and when they leave, I'm just guessing 500 of them will probably leave, and then we'll have 500 people that aren't staying in apartments. But I'm just wondering, as far as industrial, what are we going to do to bring in businesses? Where on your map do we have it mapped out where industrial businesses can come in and build?
Currently in the comprehensive plan, everything that is shown as purple is intended to develop with industrial development over the next 20 years. So that's primarily out along Highway 6 is right through here. That is in south and east of Central Community College, north of the highway, all the way out to the county line. There's also development here south of Highway 6. So this one is Baltimore going south in this area, development for industrial as well. And that's what's currently in our comprehensive plan.
Ember, I have a question. Where is your consideration in these industrial districts for environmental concerns, which all of those have had violations in that area for environmental, Where's your consideration for truck traffic, for freight traffic? Because the city just signed this big contract for all that extra freight traffic. So where's the consideration there when you're building these industrial areas for all of those things?
So with a lot of these areas, especially farther outside of city limits, this identifies where it could develop in the next 20 years. So once it gets closer to actually being developed is when those conversations would be had. A lot of these areas are way out there. They don't have the...
That's housing right there, right next to that. That purple? On the west side of where those purple is, that's housing. Most of it. At MPH, there's housing. Over by the Kingston Court, there's housing. All of that's housing.
Are you still proposing on, now that we're talking about industrial, you still proposing to limit the buildable area? Is that, you haven't changed that yet since we spoke last week?
In terms of setbacks and...
50% of the area on I-1, 75% of the area on I-2?
We haven't changed that yet.
Okay.
We're still discussing that, because once again, if you allowed 100% coverage in an industrial lot, they buy a lot and they fill it with a building, where are they gonna park? Where's the trucks gonna park?
I don't know if that's our decision to make that collectively. You
Well,
don't know what
well,
kind of
it is
business is
because-
gonna buy that lot. The last thing we wanna do is limit the possibilities of what can be done on that lot.
Right. Part of the planning process is to account for the structure, the parking, and the landscaping. If you take two of those out of there, all you're gonna have is one building after another where's the employees
Well,
gonna
I
park?
can think of multiple businesses in town right now that have been here, some of them pushing 100 years, that if this would pass and you do what you do, Chuck, you're involved with some of it, and 51% of that structure would be gone. That business could not rebuild where they're at, the way you have written this. And the way I've asked you, will there be any way to appeal it? And I was told, no, there'll be no appeal to it.
No, but like I said, this isn't set in stone yet. There could be adjustments. If, we'll take Chuck for example, if his building burns down, that building is only a small portion of his lot. Because he uses his lot in a different way. He sorts metal. He uses his outdoor
Correct,
space.
but if you go up the street to Cully's Pipe and Steel, they have a building that takes the entire lot that they use for their warehousing and manufacturing of their beams. And now, if something would happen to that building, windstorm comes in and rips off the tin off that building, they cannot fix it and continue their business where they've been operating for years.
Then they can apply for a variance and have the building, if the variance goes through, they can have the building built like it was.
I think we need to protect our investor. That's just my opinion. Of course, you know that.
Yeah, personally, if I was gonna bring a business into Hastings and I saw that, I probably wouldn't. Just because what I see right off looks like I can only use half of my property. And there are a lot of big manufacturing buildings in Hastings that you may only need 35, 40 employees. So you don't need that much parking, but you're gonna have storage outside. You can have a lot of manufacturing inside of a building that takes up a lot of square footage because you have storage inside and you have manufacturing inside. So if you're only gonna get to use half of your lot, that's really crowding you in.
Yeah, and let's not forget that 6 months out of the year, you don't want to park outside anyways. So what if somebody wants to come in and build a giant building on here, and they offer their employees a brand new thing where you can park inside?
Well, just an example, where I work, you can park 6 semis with trailers inside the building.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna shrink the size of the building, when you have a hailstorm, those semis aren't cheap to get repaired. So it's kind of nice to be able to pull trucks, semis, everything inside the building. So when you're looking at that area, that building is a big investment because you can park a lot of investment in it.
We'll look at Kearney and Lincoln and Grand Island in their heavy industrials, and we'll see what their lot percentages are. And we'll bring that back as a table. Because we're not the only ones that do this. There is a percentage, and they all follow the same planning principles. But I will show you other communities that no building occupies 100% of the lot.
Well, no, I'm not saying 100%.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that's overkill. You want some grass, some trees, some.
But there you go, you start that avenue. Where do we cut off? You want 1% landscaping, 2%, 10%, 5%? You may want 5%, but you want 100%.
I'd like 1%.
See? So where do we snap that line of making everybody happy? Because you only want to pay for 1%, and he wants 100%, because when he drives by, he wants to see trees and grass in a park. Does his needs outweigh your needs, or does your needs outweigh his needs? No, we have to meet in the middle somewhere. And that's what that formula is trying to get at. Are we gonna make everybody happy with that formula? No. What if we go to 60% lot coverage for a building, 30% for parking, and 10% for landscaping? You get trees, you get your grass, you get your bushes, you
Well, I
get
don't see
30%
anybody,
for parking.
worrying about landscaping when the building goes on around town.
There,
It might be on the plan, it might be on your picture on the pretty, but I don't see it when I drive by. And I don't know who enforces that. I don't think we have anything on the books to enforce that kind of thing.
yeah, there's landscaping code that we haven't.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, there is, when we built that metal building on Burlington, to have to provide landscaping and trees next to Burlington, and that was part of the plan, and that was enforced by the city, who came around and inspected the building as the process went on.
Well, maybe they did it for you, but when you go down the block on South Burlington, none of them have it.
So, is that
You're the only one. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I go back to my thing again. The code's there. Is it the city's fault that the owners didn't follow the code? Or is it the owner's fault because he didn't want to?
Somebody had, if there's no enforcement.
But if we punish, what do we hear from the citizens? If we start punishing, then we're not good for business. Nobody wants to develop.
Yeah, I'm trying to get 2 trees planted at City Hall. Holy mackerel.
All we're trying to do is find a
Put
happy
rock
medium.
in there. Oh, have a nice day.
I just want to say, I appreciate these meetings, so thank you.
Well, that's what we're here for, because we need to hear from you. We need to hear your voice. I don't want to hear complaints. I want to hear solutions. Because if you don't come with the solutions, who gets to put the solutions in place?
But we all have, corporately have to know what the complaint is, or the concern is, so that we can say, well, that makes sense, or that doesn't make sense. So if we don't have these forms, that never happens.
Yeah, 'cause not enough
I don't
people go to
know
their
what everybody in the room's concern is, and I'm finding it out. That's good.
And that's why we enjoy having these meetings. Are they pleasant? Sometimes not. But everybody's talking. You're showing me your concerns.
Yes. I do have
The next step in this is, let's have solutions. Because I can't solve a problem unless we have a solution to the problem. And I don't think the city should be responsible for having every solution.
No.
I do have a question, though. Earlier, just step back several minutes here, said you needed 900 more units?
I know.
In the next 10 years, yes.
And then you said the 26 Adele project, 3/4 filled, roughly?
I would
Where
say,
did people come from?
I'd say there's 60 to 70% for all 5 structures.
Okay, so where did the people come from? They come from inside of Hastings to there?
I
Or they
think
come
it's-
from outside of town?
I think it's a mix. I think it's people moving into the town because now there's a choice. There's people in town moving up because now they have a choice. And it's people that have lived outside of Hastings like her that didn't have a choice because there was nothing available. It's a combination of everything. It's about choice.
That's his question for, how much growth have we seen in Hastings in North County?
Well, our population has not reflected that growth. But when you invest, let's say Perry Reed out of the theater district, they invested $20 million in 2 structures.
I'm arguing you that.
And they're full.
They are full?
Yes. So, does that tell you something? That there's a need, there's a demand for a choice.
They were full, but did they come from rental houses? Did the local little landlords, are they suffering because
I
of
think
this?
it's not just one thing, I think it's 20 things.
So
Just like Franklin and G. We built duplexes on Franklin and G. They were full before we even gave them a CO. So where did those people come from? They came from either a poor choice, or they moved in from the country, or they moved in from another town, because they liked the unit and they liked Hastings.
I agree with all that, and I get all that. The thing I'm looking at for is if we say we need 900 more units here in the next few years, are the units because we're growing, or are we just filling up new units with people that's coming out of town?
Once again, I think it's a combination of everything put together. And who knows, we've got a census coming up in 2030, okay? We'll get better numbers.
I can add that we lived in Pioneer Trail Flats. We could not find a house. We found a house in every community we've lived in. We found a house immediately and moved. We could not find a house that was affordable. We moved into Pioneer Trail Flats, and I see out-of-state vehicles all the time. And the minute one's open, it fills right back up. We have bought a house, by the way. We are renovating it and very excited about it. But it took us many months. We stayed in a hotel for 3 months because we didn't want to go to a hotel. We wanted, or to an apartment. We wanted to move into a house. That's what we've always had. And it took us till, we moved in August, and then we finally bought a house in December. So.
But when Hastings wants to grow, it's not just in one area, not just in single family. We want to be single family, duplexes, fourplexes, multiplexes, and large lots. We want every one of those to have the same opportunity to grow and have everybody have the same choice to pick what you want to do. Right now, there is no choice if you want to live in a fourplex. They're all full. You can't live in a fourplex, or an eightplex, or a 12plex. They're not available. Is that a choice for you? Or is that a good choice for you?
You know, the choice of us that live where we live, we made that choice because of what the area was.
Right.
We don't want all these fourplexes and everything else coming in around us. That's not why we bought.
Not all areas are going to support those fourplexes. Because the lots may not be big enough, or they don't meet the setback requirements. There's other caveats that will control that. Not every lot's going to get fourplex.
I think a lot of us saw the people going and opposing Elm 26.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us saw that, and we are fearful that our voices are not going to be heard when and if we oppose, because they were very well organized. This isn't the only community they built in. They built in Lexington. I'm not, but their model hasn't changed no matter what city they're in. Their model hasn't changed. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that the three stories changes the landscape of any neighborhood. The 3 stories changes the landscape of any neighborhood.
Yes.
And
but if somebody would have bought that land and put a big huge house there that's 4 stories tall and landscaped it so you couldn't see inside of it, would that have changed the landscape?
it would have been set. I mean, it would have been set back. It would have been fit in with the other houses.
But you couldn't see it, except for the 2 stories above the fence. I'm saying it
would have been less traffic. There would have been more. It would have been less traffic. It would have been landscaped. It would have. I would rather have had that.
Or they could have left it in agriculture and just planted corn all the way around.
I would rather have had either of those. I would rather have either of those.
I think part of the problem with that Element 26 was there was no enforcement and trash. They didn't clean up the work site every night like it's required. Well, there was a lot of things that didn't happen. You can see right now all the quote wetland area has got 6-foot weeds in it, so, and musk thistles. So, I mean, there is some issues that really never were addressed. I picked up, you know, because somebody's bringing up the Element 26, I picked up 10 truckloads. These are farm truckloads full of trash in my pastures.
Yeah.
So there was, you can say they do great work everywhere else, but I can tell you there's some major problems. They put wells in, and it's a Wellhead Protection Act.
And I did discuss that with our engineering, and they were aware of all of that.
And yet they still allowed them to put wells in.
They were in compliance with what the rules and regulations were. Because they contacted the state of Nebraska.
So my well doesn't count.
Your well's a little different.
I have a wellhead protection.
Yes, you're in the wellhead protection district, yes. But like I said, this is what we need. We need conversation. We need solutions. This is solutions. If you don't like the solutions, tell us how we can do it better.
I don't know if we can tell you how to do it better, but we would like to make some suggestions, and I think that's what.
Then
this
you
is about.
make them either come to our office, write them down, and then we'll talk about it. And if they fit, they fit. If they don't, we'll tell you why they don't fit.
I think what she was getting at over there though is that there was people that came in and they were organized
No way.
and it fell on deaf ears. Is that correct?
Yes, so I feel,
So
that's
how-
what I feel.
Right. So
Like-
you come in armed, military and everything essentially. You come in and you still can't win the war. And you feel defeated, you just want to leave the community that you are established in.
I know, but hopefully I have addressed her concerns about, there's not a fourplex going on every empty lot in town. That's the concern.
Yet.
No, there is, no, not yet, or in the future. That lot still has to meet all the other design standards. You can't just throw up an apartment complex anywhere you go.
I'm just
Well, then why do-
reiterating what she says
It
is.
doesn't make sense why we need to change the zoning then to medium density if you're not gonna allow it to be built on the lot. Why do we need to change it from, why can't we just leave it R1?
Yeah.
Low
I think-
density residential?
I think there's a lot of people in here that also think that there's something going on behind.
Nothing. There's two things that are driving this. Fair Housing Act and the state statutes telling us that we have to allow for medium density, which is our missing middle. All we're doing is allowing it in certain areas. We're not making anybody do anything. We're allowing it in certain areas.
You know what that statute is?
There was a slide, I think it's in one of those slide presentations.
So this medium density that has to go to 11.67 people, and the lots are too small, so then why does it have to be that? Because I'm specifically talking, because I live by Hastings College, and you said that the Hastings College area, it would be this 6.87 to 3 point something, so basically 11, we're talking 7 to 11 people. And it would be the 3-story ability.
Or
So,
4-story, the new dorms are 4 stories.
right,
Brian,
so we're talking.
how big is your lot over there on University? You're probably 12, 13,000.
Just under 15.
It's under 15,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
it's under 15.
And so the lot behind you on 7th Street, some of those lots are big lots also.
Yeah.
So some of those houses now on 7th Street would be able to be purchased and, and there's some of them, they're gonna be coming up for sale. I know a couple people that are looking to downsize that live in a couple of those big houses. And now it'll go back to the way it was when you've tore down that apartment house. It was so, we got rid of the one apartment house there that was so run down. And then somebody brought in a little house and put a little house in that spot where the apartment house was. But if this would pass, now every one of those houses now, because their lots are 12, 15,000 square feet, could be turned into 3 apartments.
And that's what I'm gonna ask Brian. How many of those houses on 7th Street are already a 4-unit apartment?
There's quite a few.
There is quite a few.
So we didn't do anything. It's still zoned R1.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of that stuff, you gotta remember, a lot of that stuff was done in World War II, when we had an influx of people that needed a place to live.
And 7th Street was originally designed to be a larger road. That was the original intent for it. It was a 3-lane road. And they never developed it because, I don't know why, the rail or whatever, but yes, they have large setbacks in that process and in that space. I mean, but it still has to go to the, it's still part of the plot and the easement of it, right? So I don't know that larger font on there is if that's criteria for that, but yeah, I mean, I have
Well, when you start
50,000.
changing setbacks, so like some of the setbacks changes that have been proposed, then that also comes into play with that. I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but what I'm saying is now you're opening this up for, I think, with the college building the huge dormitory, it probably will eliminate some of the need for smaller apartment housing in that neighborhood.
Well, so yes and no. Hastings College is building their gigantic place over there. A lot of developers went in there and worked on that place. A lot of stuff went into that. They are going to tear down, I think, 2 or 3 of those older dorms. So yeah, there is some things that are going to happen. So hopefully they're going to fill in, but there's still going to be students. I think their policy is not to allow them to live off campus. I think that's coming with that new place.
That's what I thought. So that's what I said. I don't see that being an issue where people are going to want to get in there and turn that into a bunch of apartments for college rentals necessarily.
Yeah.
But there's still that possibility in these neighborhoods if you rezone it to this. If you don't think it's going to happen in most neighborhoods, why do we need to change it?
To reflect it in our comp plan.
area over there,
East of the tracks.
at
Yes.
one time it was from 2nd Street to 7th was a blighted area.
I don't think it's from 2nd to 7th anymore, but around the college, Turner, and in that area, there's some blighted area in there.
They took it off.
I think the east, the stuff that was just east of the tracks, I believe that has been, I don't think that's blighted anymore. I could be wrong.
So this is the area that has the maps that the Community Redevelopment Authority currently has as blighted. Each of these areas with numbers is. So in the Hastings College area, the college itself and some of that to the south of them is in a blighted area. Along east side,
There is an area.
and then most of South Hastings is currently in a blighted area.
Ember, is that part of the GIS page? Is that where that is?
Yeah, this is on the GIS website.
Now, once they blight an area, are you always blighted?
You're blighted until you're de-blighted. You have to go through a process that goes to Planning Commission and City Council in order to de-blight area. So the old Hastings Regional Center was actually in a blighted area, and that was de-blighted last year.
I'm on Winoka, right east of that empty football field. And they blighted that whole area there.
I'm blighted. It's supposed to affect your taxes.
Yeah, it's supposed to affect your taxes to go down. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it.
Planning doesn't do anything about taxes.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Never have it, never will.
Okay.
Anything else? Somebody had their hand up earlier.
You know what I was gonna ask, like in your planning process, you know, where I don't know, if you increase the density in certain areas, or just like 26th and Elm, do you address like arterials that need to be improved? Because I've been in other cities where that would be part of that development cost, to put a turning lane or to kind of buffer the traffic increase, to make it maybe a little safer, you know?
Yes, all that gets looked at when a development project comes to the city of Hastings. We all sit down at a table. Everybody in engineering, streets, planning, and management, we sit at a table. They present this case to us. Now, if we see an area that we want them to increase, like an arterial street, we present that to them. We make that part of their project. We have a 1 and 6 year road plan, okay, that we keep up to date. We have the 12th Street corridor going from Baltimore west to account for the additional traffic that's being put on that road.
Okay, but I'm gonna switch back to planning and your planning. And I'm gonna go back a few years to F Street that comes off of Burlington and goes west. I've been to very many meetings over 20 years. That was gonna be an arterial that would go, or a 3-lane road that would go over to Baltimore. And the city right away, I believe, was partially in there. I don't know by the racetrack, but I was driving down F Street right after they poured the bike trail. It appears like it's right in the middle of the street.
It is. They
And
use
it
that
looks
right
like
away.
if I wanted to drive a car, I could just go straight on the bike trail.
On the bike trail.
But why in the world did that happen?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what decision-making process, why we did not improve F Street to make that an arterial street.
Well,
That
that's
was,
what had been talked about several years before. And then I know there was There was room on either side to go on the school property or the city right of way to the north, or we could have dealt with the fairgrounds on the 4-H leased property and moved the trail over. But when that trail got put down, let me tell you, it's going to be there for a lot of generations. I'll never see F Street going on through. The vision of it going through was done 20 years ago or more in planning. What the heck happened?
That I don't know. It's not on our current one and six
No,
year
I know,
plan.
but I'm pointing out, we try to plan and then these things happen. You know, some of the other things that happen is you really look at Hastings arterial-wise, we've blocked off several that could have been an artery to get through the town. And not that we've grown that much, but we try to accommodate growth, but we just rely on Burlington and Baltimore, the same old, and we have trains that cross in the city. But I guess my point, planning, and once you plan, you'd think, let's stick to it maybe,
Well,
but it didn't
you
happen
can stick
on
to a plan
F
or you
Street.
can adjust your plan.
Yeah.
And I think the city is adjusting to the plan. It's just not, F Street was never continued to be thought of. There was other priorities in their plan other than developing F Street.
Something happened.
Right. I don't know what it is. Chuck might have an answer. He's been here longer than
I've been here a long time.
a long
It
time.
always boils down to money, because my dad wanted 3 lanes, or 5 lanes, they were gonna do 12th Street, 5 lanes to the old Imperial Mall, which we could probably use it now if you go there. And that got voted down. There was too much people against it, and that was gonna be done with federal money. So that's gone now, and we'll have to take a look at that whole project again. I've been pushing them on 12th from Baltimore to Burlington to put a turn lane in there instead of having 2 lanes heading east. So I don't know, we'll see what happens there. They're working.
Anyway, I was wondering about the coordination between the planning and what we see with the roads and how that
All I can tell you is we try to get involved in every process the city does. Whether they include us or not, I can't control it.
That comp plan changes all the time. I don't know if you're involved with Imagine Hastings. That was a comp plan that was done like, what, 10 or 12 years
2009.
prior to this one. And so much has changed since those were done. And the state requires these comp plans for first-class cities because of the transportation element and everything. And I know the mayor was saying he didn't know 140,000 we could do it. I don't think you guys would have time to do a comp plan.
It
in your
takes us about
day-to-day.
25 hours a week each to go through what we're trying to accomplish here.
So, I mean, I know it's a lot of money. When I was on council, we picked that firm. We interviewed about 6 different firms for this comp plan before we decided on the one we selected. And there's a lot of work. They had several meetings, but there's a lot of work that went into it. I know that's a lot of money to spend, but in this day and age, with all the documents and everything they had to put together and keeping all that together.
Also, you hadn't had one done.
Yeah, for a long
about
time, yeah. I mean, we were way out of date.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean.
So there is a compliance element to that for the state,
Yes.
There is.
where that has to be done.
A lot of funding depends on whether you're in the company. And that's
what
why.
Brian was talking
Yep.
to me about, that a lot of that grant and funding that we require as a
Yes.
community
Is
is very
sometimes
easily or easier attainable if you have these comp plans in place.
And this is what Ember and I are bringing to the table. This isn't a
Yeah, I
document,
mean, I don't think most of these people know that.
but this isn't a document that we made and it's gonna sit on the table for 20 years. We're gonna continue to update this yearly. So if there's issues that the public sees or we see issues in it, the city isn't growing in a certain way or isn't growing the where we want it, then we'll make adjustments to the comp plan. We are very fortunate that this person here can look up any number and get any statistics that we need. So we don't have to pay for it. We pay for it through her ability. And that's my promise to you is we're gonna keep this comp plan up to date on a yearly basis. Now, are you all gonna agree with it? No. But we're gonna give you the best data that we can. Because this document belongs to you. This is how the city of Hastings is gonna grow. Does it represent everybody? You want 90%? You want 90% to be happy with the growth, or 100%? We're doing the best that we can to give you this data to allow you to help make decisions of where the city of Hastings wants to grow.
What's your address of your office?
3505 Yost.
3505 what?
Yost.
Oh,
We're at 649.
So,
Are you gonna be moving to?
yes, well, hopefully in July sometime. So, anybody that wants to talk more, our offices are open 8 to 5, or call us. We're happy to talk to you. But remember, it's not just questions, it's also solutions.
Right, and what's your phone number?
308-458-7664. And that gets my cell phone, which I answer 24/7.
You better sleep, done that.
Don't, the gas company does all that. Thank